I never thought I'd be in my own hallway, overhearing my wife talk about me like I was just another chore to handle. I stood there, frozen, groceries weighing heavily in my arms as each word sank in. The plastic handles were digging into my fingers, but I barely felt it. My head was spinning with the phrase I just heard: love has to be earned. No woman should just hand it out, she said casually, like she wasn't talking about the man who'd worked countless hours to keep us financially secure, who always believed love was something given freely, not some prize you had to win. Deep down, I knew I shouldn't be listening, but it wasn't intentional. I'd just come home, quietly stepped inside with the last few shopping bags while she lounged on the couch, phone pressed to her ear. She didn't notice me. Men get complacent, she continued with a light laugh. They think marriage is automatic. So why keep giving them our love if they're not proving themselves? She went on. Something in me twisted, sharp and new. I'd never seen love as something that had to be proven day after day. To me, it was something two people built and nurtured together. Had I been blind all along? I stayed where I was, listening to her friend mumble something on the other end. Madison gave a soft laugh. Ryan's a good guy, sure, but love isn't just handed over. If he wants it, he needs to earn it. That was the moment I felt something inside me fracture. For years, I'd made her happiness my priority. Planned romantic evenings when she was stressed, surprised her with small gifts just because, stayed up nights soothing her anxiety. But apparently, none of that mattered to her. It never had. I wasn't her partner. I was like an employee, constantly working to keep her affection. I set the bags down harder than I meant to. It startled her, and she turned around, eyes widening when she saw me. For a split second, I thought I caught a glimpse of guilt, but she quickly hid it. "Oh, you're home," she said, all breezy, shifting in her seat. "Why didn't you say something?" I forced a tight smile, didn't want to interrupt. She didn't pick up on the tension in my voice. She just ended the call and turned toward me. I didn't realize it was so late. "What took you so long?" she asked, and I searched her face for any sign she regretted what she'd said. Nothing. She was calm, collected. Had she always felt this way? My mind raced to every moment of distance between us. Every time I felt I was pouring in more than I was getting back. Maybe I should have seen it. I finally managed to speak. "Traffic," I muttered. She nodded, stood up, and stretched. "I'm starving. What did you bring?" I glanced at the bags on the counter, filled with her favorite things. The thought made my stomach churn. Did she ever notice how much I tried to please her? How I arranged everything around her likes and needs? I took a slow breath, my hands clenched at my sides. Something had changed inside me. I stayed silent as she walked past, rummaging through the groceries without a second thought. I watched her, saying nothing, and realized she had never seen me the way I saw her. I'd always believed we were a team, working side by side, building our life together. But in her eyes, love was a transaction. And for the first time, I started wondering if I was willing to keep paying. I didn't wake up the next morning with some grand plan to get even. There was no heated argument, no big speech. I didn't accuse her of anything or demand explanations. I just made a decision. I was done fighting for her love. For years, I'd carried our marriage, put everything I had into it, worked myself raw to keep it afloat. I truly thought we were partners, but I was wrong. To Madison, love wasn't automatic. It was currency, something you earned. So I quit trying. I started small. I didn't reach for her hand when we woke up. I skipped the forehead kiss before leaving for work. I stopped asking about her day. I let the silence grow where I used to put my effort. In Madison, at first she didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did, but chalked it up to me being tired or busy. She didn't ask. She'd grown used to my constant devotion, never imagining I'd stop. She never thought I might change. So I let her go on thinking whatever she wanted, while I just kept pulling away. About a week after I'd started pulling back, I got home one evening and found her on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Normally, I would have come in with a smile, maybe brought her a cup of coffee, or told a quick story about my day. This time, I simply passed by, heading straight to the kitchen for some water. She glanced up. "You okay?" she asked. I gave a short nod, sipping my drink. "Yeah," I murmured. She frowned, studied me for a moment, then returned her attention to her phone. And that was it. One weekend came and went, and it didn't seem to bother her that I wasn't making an effort. That realization hit me hard. She'd grown so accustomed to my constant care and attention that it didn't even register when it vanished. Over the following weeks, I quit starting conversations. If she wanted to talk, she could speak up first. I stopped planning date nights. If she wanted to go out, she'd have to mention it. All those small acts of thoughtfulness I'd always done for her without question, I let those go too. At first, she barely noticed, assuming I was just tired or in a mood. But little by little, I could see her growing uneasy. She felt the stillness settling between us. One night, I climbed into bed and turned away without my usual good night. She shifted beside me, fidgeting in the darkness before finally breaking the silence. "Aren't you going to say anything?" she asked softly. I kept my eyes closed. "About what?" She let out a quiet sigh. "I don't know," she said, sounding uncertain. "You've just been so quiet." I inhaled, letting the weight of her words hang there. She wanted me to explain or beg for her attention, and I wasn't about to do either. "I guess I don't have much to say," I replied. She waited for me to offer something more, but when I didn't, she turned over with a frustrated sigh. I fell asleep without another word. A month passed, and the tension in our home only grew. Our dinners were a near-silent affair, and we barely spoke the rest of the time. She was counting on me to be the first one to close the gap, but I'd already made up my mind. One evening, she slammed her fork down in the middle of dinner, fixing me with a sharp look. "Are you mad at me?" she demanded. I took a slow drink, keeping my face blank. "Why would I be?" I asked. She glared. "I don't know. You're acting strange," she said with a hint of accusation. I shrugged. "I've just been thinking." She leaned forward, frowning. "About what?" Our eyes locked. "Effort," I said plainly. I caught the flicker of worry on her face. Saw the moment she realized something was off. Part of me hoped she'd own up to neglecting me, that she'd admit she'd taken me for granted. Instead, she scoffed. "You're being dramatic." And just like that, I knew she didn't believe she'd done anything wrong. She thought it was still my job to prove myself, and that she got to decide if I was worthy. She had no clue she was slowly losing me. From then on, the silence wasn't just a hollow space. Now it weighed on her too. She started testing the waters, trying to pull me back into being the person who doted on her every need. One night, while we were both sitting on the couch, she let out a loud sigh. "Ugh, I'm so bored," she complained, stretching lazily. I barely glanced away from my phone. "Then find something to do," I said, my tone mild. She stared at me, clearly thrown off because she was used to me leaping at any chance to make her happy. When I didn't react, she sank back in a sulk. She wasn't used to not being the center of my world. Then, to fill the void, she started picking fights. She started firing off little digs, clearly aiming to provoke me. "You never help around the house anymore," she'd say, or, "You don't even try to talk to me. Are you just going to sit there like a statue?" Every time, I'd offer little more than a shrug, letting her words bounce right off. I wasn't about to chase her. Not after everything I'd heard. Not anymore. The major turning point came on a Friday night. She put a lot of effort into her appearance. Heels, a tight dress, her hair styled perfectly. She hadn't gone to that trouble in ages. "Some of the girls are going out," she mentioned, glancing at herself in the mirror. "Might join them." I glanced up from my book and said, "Okay," then went back to reading. No jealousy, no curiosity, no have fun or stay safe. Nothing. She lingered there, fiddling with her earrings, waiting for me to ask where she was headed or who'd be there. But I didn't. A flicker of irritation crossed her face. "Wow, okay." I could tell she'd expected some show of possessiveness or concern, but I gave her nothing. In the end, she stayed home, and her frustration grew. Not long after, she tried a different tactic. We were both in the kitchen doing dishes when she deliberately bumped into me with her hip. Definitely not an accident. I just stepped away. Clearing her throat, she ventured, "So, we haven't, been together in a while." I stayed quiet. She paused, then pushed harder. "You haven't even tried." At that, I set down the plate I was rinsing and finally looked at her. "Neither have you," I said calmly. She blinked, as though it had never once crossed her mind that she'd stop putting in any effort too. It was always me, the one who reached out, planned everything, did all the work. Now that I wasn't taking the lead, she looked lost. Eventually, she couldn't pretend anymore. One evening, while I was scrolling through my phone on the couch, she switched one off the TV and blocked my view. Arms folded, she stared me down. "All right," she huffed. "Seriously, what's with you?" I locked my phone and tilted my head. "What do you mean?" She gave a short, humorless laugh. "Come on, Ryan. You've been acting strange for weeks." I raised an eyebrow. "I don't think I have." "Yes, you have," she insisted. "You don't talk to me. You don't care what I do. You don't even—" She caught herself, took a breath, then added more softly, "You don't even touch me anymore." I watched her, saying nothing. Her arms tightened around her chest. "Are you mad at me?" she asked. No, I said. Then what is it? She pressed. Leaning back, I studied her. For so long, I'd been the one chasing after her approval, desperate for a love she acted like I had to earn. Now the roles had reversed, and I could see the fear in her eyes. Fear that she might lose something she never imagined would slip through her fingers. But I didn't soothe her. I got up, walked by without touching her, and said, I'm going to bed. Then I left her alone in the quiet she'd grown so used to ignoring. Madison had always been the confident one in the relationship, the person who knew her own worth the second she stepped into a room. Yet now she wasn't so sure. The more I pulled away, the more cracks I saw in her self-assured facade. She wasn't used to feeling unwanted or overlooked, and she hated every second of it. The final straw came on a Saturday night. I was at the dining table finishing some paperwork when she came in looking noticeably polished, hair done, makeup on, wearing a fitted dress she normally saved for our date nights. Standing across the table, fingers tapping nervously, she said, I made reservations for us. That Italian place you like. I glanced up. Okay, silence. Her eyebrows pulled together in confusion. So, do you want to go? I shrugged. You can go if you want, I said. Madison opened her mouth, clearly thrown. I meant together, Ryan. I put my pen down, sighing. Why? She let out a tight laugh, the frustration obvious in her voice. Because we're married? I leaned back, meeting her gaze. What changed? I asked. She looked startled, her eyes flickering in confusion. What? She asked. I kept my voice calm. You never used to plan outings like this. What changed? She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, and I realized I'd cornered her. She didn't know how to admit she was finally the one feeling the distance. In that instant, I saw her frustration shift into anger. Crossing her arms, she drew in a sharp breath. You're acting like a child, Ryan. You're obviously holding something against me, and I don't even know what I did. A dry laugh escaped me. You really have no idea? Her jaw tightened. No, I don't. I stood up, looking her square in the eyes. Then let me refresh your memory. I took a measured step forward, my tone unwavering. You said love has to be earned. Her face went pale, and she seemed to brace herself. You told me a man doesn't deserve love unless he's constantly proving himself. I went on. And that marriage isn't guaranteed. She swallowed but stayed silent. So I stopped proving myself, I said quietly. I gave up trying to earn what should have been unconditional. And now you don't like the result. She drew a shaky breath. That's not what I meant. My reply came without hesitation. Yes, it is. She flinched like I'd struck her. For a moment, neither of us said a word. Then, voice trembling, she whispered, I never actually stopped loving you. I exhaled, feeling a flicker of pity. Maybe not, but you sure made me hustle for it. Her fists clenched at her sides. So, what, this is revenge? You want me to feel ignored and left out? Shaking my head, I said, no, this isn't about getting even. I gestured between us. This is the situation you created. Her breath caught at those words. You turned love into some kind of transaction, and when I quit paying, the whole thing collapsed. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she hadn't broken down yet. She was just beginning to grasp the loneliness and exhaustion I'd carried all this time. No one was there to rescue her from it now. She gripped the edge of the table like it might stop the world from spinning. I didn't step in to soothe her or tell her it would be all right. I walked past, leaving her alone in the very emptiness she'd forced me to live in. After that, Madison tried to make amends. She cooked my favorite meals, left little tokens like a fresh coffee on my desk or a blanket set out if I stayed up late. She even started asking about my day, but it felt hollow. I recognized it for what it was, panic. A week later, she slid onto the couch next to me, tucking her legs underneath. I was thinking, she ventured, voice tentative, maybe we could take a trip. Just us two? I kept my gaze on the TV. A trip? She nodded, trying for a casual tone. Yeah, like a weekend away somewhere quiet. I shrugged. I doubted it'd fix anything. She drew a sharp breath. Why not? At last, I turned to face her. Because our problem isn't going to be solved by changing the scenery. Her eyes darted down and her voice shook. I'm trying, though. I'm trying to fix us. I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. No, you're just slapping a bandage on something that's already sinking. She winced like the words stung. I don't know what you want, she admitted softly. That's exactly it, I said. You never did. In that moment, her guard finally shattered. Her shoulders trembled, and she buried her face in her hands. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. I wished I could find a spark of sympathy, but I'd run out of it long ago. That night, I packed my bags, and she watched from the bed, tears sliding down her cheeks, saying nothing to stop me. When my suitcase was zipped and my keys in hand, she spoke in a voice that was barely there. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean you had to earn my love. I paused by the door, turning just enough to meet her eyes. Yes, you did, I said quietly. You just never thought I'd walk away. Her breath hitched, a tremor running through her. But I didn't pause, didn't wait for another plea or excuse. I turned the handle, stepped through the doorway, and left. Behind me, Madison stood frozen, watching as everything she thought was secure unraveled before her eyes. For the first time, she truly understood. Love isn't a prize to be won, something dangled just out of reach. It's meant to be given freely.